welcome to Live Action Roleplay with
Cynthia Marie,
Kai Norman, he, him,
and Ryan Omega. Joining us today are our guests. Do you know what? We need to do this again because we need to do this properly. Hi, this is Ryan Omega, and my pronouns are he, him. And you know me probably from various things, including Zyra, which is playing on Gilding Light, and Total Party Kills, which is on Scabby Rooster. Cynthia Marie?
Oh, hey y'all, let's do this again. I'm Cynthia Marie. Pronouns are she, her, or queen, you know. I play Nellie G on LA by Night. That's probably where you know me best. I play Jursol on Sirens on Gilding Light. I'm also on Gilding Light for Soul Searching as Vikera the Dream Druid and a bunch of other things. So, yeah, it's Cynthia Marie. It's cool. Kai?
My name is Kai Norman. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a costumer, prop builder. I run a LARP up in Northern California called Dystopia Rising NorCal. And I'm really happy to be here with my friends.
I want to give a special shout out to Scabby Rooster that just rated us. Thank you so much for your support. And I want to introduce our guest. If you can introduce yourselves, please. I'm going to start with Shea.
Hiya, my name is Shea Gibbons. My pronouns are they, them. I suppose I'm a LARPer, a costumer, and recently the new experience designer at Dystopia Rising NorCal with Kai Norman. And I'm very excited to be participating in the community in that role, and I'm excited to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. I literally squealed when I heard this from Kai. I'm like, really? That's amazing. And Zeke, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Awesome. Hello, my name is Ezekiel Bradshaw-Little. My pronouns are he, him. I am a part of the community management team for Twin Mass. I am a crafter, a fledgling prop maker, and a longtime LARPer, and I'm super excited to be here.
And the wonderful part about technology is that, Z, I want to draft you into things for a long time, but now we have technology, so now you're here, and I'm excited. All right, people, what are we drinking today? I'm going to start with Sin.
Water! H2O.
Nice. Hydration is important. Kai.
I'm doing the same thing as last time, and I'm still drinking more Verner's.
Cool. Shea.
There's secretly like sparkling lime water in here, so I'm a LaCroix person right now.
Zeke.
I'm drinking some very classy black box wine.
And I am drinking water out of my D&D mug, which is going to be a hint for things to come, which I will talk about later. Shout-outs. Does anybody have any shout-outs that they want to do today? I'm going to start with Sin.
Oh, okay. So I have two shout-outs. Shout out to my castmates on Soul Searching. We're midway through our mini season, and it's been kick butt. If you guys haven't seen it, it's a total Magic Girl, Sailor Moon, Ruby, Power Rangers, whatever you want to think about, kind of sort of game. It's on Sundays. It's fantastic. And Lily, who is a female DM, freaking awesome. She rocks. So that was the one shout out. And then the second one, it's very, very vague, but some of you know I'm on staff for Twin Mask, and I am currently writing a culture packet. So my shout out is to the people that I will be giving that to, hopefully soon. Vaguing here.
Vaguing, understand. Kai.
I'm drawing a blank on who to. I don't have anyone right now. That doesn't mean that there aren't people deserving. I just can't think of anyone right now. So.
Can I say what's really cool, though, Kai, is that your shout-out from last week is actually on the show right now.
Yes.
Yes!
That's true.
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, you were shouted out when we had our last episode with Jason Carl.
Oh.
I guess Shea wasn't listening to our last episode.
No, listen. I came in late. listen.
Okay, we won't put you on the spot long. Shea, do you have a shout out for anyone out in the audience?
I do. My shout out is incredibly broad, but I basically just would like to shout out the entire Dystopia Rising NorCal community. I got really mushy about this before, and I indicated a little bit of this in my sort of introduction post, but I really owe a lot to the DR NorCal community. I really do feel like the positivity and like uplifting attitude that I experienced there really helped boost my confidence, and I would not be where I am today without that kind of experience. So I extend that shout out to all of them, and I thank all of them.
Very nice. Zeke, do you have a shout out for us today?
I guess I'll shout out. I've been thinking a lot about like community and stuff, and so I want to shout out like the Twin Mass community, and really specifically a lot of the people that hang around on the Discord and who host watch parties and stuff, and just constantly having that through point, that connection to the people around you, and being able to hang out with them on voice and do some awesome RP together. It's been getting me through all of this. So thank you to the Twin Mass community. Y'all are wonderful and beautiful, and I love you.
My shout out, like Sin, is going to be vague. My shout out is to Dungeons and Dragons for things that will be revealed very, very soon, and I cannot wait. Cannot wait. People know I've been sitting on this for a while, but pay attention, and you may learn things, and I might be able to announce it later. So with that said, shout outs and drinking aside, for today's topic, we're going to talk about visual storytelling, which is using physical movement, costuming, props, set decoration in order to enhance the story that we want to tell. And before we started, we start to get into physical role play. So I wanted to just start with that. And let's have Shea, you had something that you wanted to introduce into physical role play in the discussion.
Where to start with this? Well, this is something that I use with every single one of my characters, is an aspect of physical role play, both as an effort to convey a personality, convey something about that character to whoever is interacting with me. Like, I want them to look at me and within like the first 10 seconds of like looking at what I'm doing and how I'm behaving, get kind of like a feel for the character that I'm portraying. And additionally to that, it actually also helps me by like getting into character. It actually provides kind of like a stark line in my headspace of like, I am Shea right now, and like, okay, I'm playing a character. I'm moving like this. My kind of like main character that I use this on, it's very exaggerated, and I guess I go kind of extra on this one character that I use, which is Pagu, in which I basically use a lot of like twitchy movements, and honestly movements evocative of a crab, to kind of indicate almost nervousness and jitteriness, but at the same time, kind of a weird and alien monster sort of feel. So I want people to look at Pagu from across the way and not necessarily be intimidated, but be somewhat confused as to like, what is that? Like, what is this person doing?
Unsettling?
Unsettling. Yes, thank you so much, Kai. But then also, like, for example, when I start actually interacting, like speaking with someone, I want that to evoke a sort of hesitance in how they speak, to be able to kind of convey that, like, this person is not used to speaking to people. This person is not really used to interacting in that way socially. So I don't know, I just sort of immediately went on like my Pagu tangent of like how I'm trying to convey this sort of personality through my movements only, and then kind of transition into like how my character talks as well as walks to establish that idea in another person.
And a lot of this has to do with, I mean, this whole episode is basically about first impressions to a degree. What do you think, guys?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Shea, so I have a question for you. Your movement style is very unique. I went to college for movement. I've studied all types of movement and how it does convey different personalities. So for my question for you is, where is your basis of movement coming from? Is it watching movies? Is it do you have a performance background? What is it that got you to be where you are today?
Oh God, I don't actually have like a performance background or anything like that. I'd say like kind of a combination. I'm thinking of like the origins of Pago. It's like a combination of like trying to imitate like silhouettes of some of my like inspiring images. Like for example, I don't know if anyone here has played Dark Souls 3, but there is a character called a pilgrim who is like constantly weighted down by like a boulder on their back. And so they're like constantly like laboring under this weight. So trying to like evoke that silhouette kind of then evolved into like the hunched movement that I used. And then the twitchy movement was actually just inspired by, for my undergraduate research, I did marine biology. So in our lab, we actually had like hermit crabs that we were studying some of their behavior and their movement. So I found inspiration in like a lot of that personality. So I actually like lifted that directly from like actual hermit crabs of like
Awesome.
how strangely they move.
Real cool. Awesome. Zeke, what about you? Yeah, let's talk about your movement backgrounds and how you like to convey your character on a first impression, much like Kai was indicating.
Yeah, so my body and my brain are basically completely disconnected. And so it's taken me a long time to figure out how movement works in order to inform a character, because for me it was always like, oh, the costuming is going to be the most important thing. And really I started looking at media and specific characters that move and convey the feeling that I really wanted to convey. And so for my Twin Mask character, I looked at Lucius Malfoy. I looked at Hal from Hal's Moving Castle. I looked at Thranduil because I wanted to be this older than time ancient being floating through town better than everyone. And really what I did was practice in front of a mirror and go, well, how do they hold themselves? And why do I feel this feeling of fear and respect when I look at this person? And I feel something completely different when I see this like hunched old man walking down the street. You know, what's the difference between the two? And then I grew up in like the club scene and doing theater and stuff like that. So I have a long history of just like watching people and watching body language, and then figuring out how to translate that to my much smaller and different form.
Awesome.
I have a quick follow-up on that, Zeke.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, when your character has that kind of like, would you describe them as aloof?
He is aloof on the outside and way too fearful on the inside.
I feel like some of the times I've interacted with you, you've kind of leaned your head back just a little. I'm over exaggerating it, but just like a slightly, like rather than the usual resting, you've kind of lifted your chin a little bit, and so it means you're kind of like looking down on them a little. And I'm wondering if that was a conscious effort or something more that just kind of came natural with the idea of like, I'm playing this like pontificating character potentially. Yeah.
Some of his mannerisms are absolutely accidental. Like when he got his spear, he started like leaning on it and having a little bit more gravitas. But a lot of it comes from just studying movement and seeing and sort of naturally stringing together the things I feel like make up a person's internal life. And so I feel like someone who's 600 years old and is well learned, he would look down his nose to everyone, because when he's looking at a 20-year-old, what is he going to see? And so it's sort of a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. And now the character's evolved so much that I don't need that backbone of like, oh, I don't need the study friend wheel anymore because it's inherent in my body now. I know how he moves.
I love it when that gets like that.
Mm-hmm. It took a year, but I got there.
I know for this particular episode, people brought pictures of costumes, so I wanted to start digging into that. Let me see, who should go first? How are we going to talk about this? Anyone want to go first?
I'm happy to go first if there's no one else, but I'm comfortable waiting potentially.
Go, Kai.
Sure, go for it, Kai.
Okay. Sorry. Cool. So in a moment, I'm gonna have Joe show the first of the two costume, pictures that we've got. But before that, I kind of have a little bit of an idea, maybe later in the episode. If members of the audience are interested in, if they have a particular character stereotype that they want to portray, like a noble or a mad scientist or things like that. If they throw it in chat and kind of ask that question of how we do it, maybe later we can try and offer some tips on that, maybe for physical roleplay.
That's actually a pretty cool idea. So
yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, we're also open to
you,
questions as well.
Yeah.
Like if you have questions of the group here, but let's go ahead and go into costumes.
Cool. Okay. Which one? Okay. Joe, could you show the first one, the one that looks less armored? Yeah. Okay. So I started with a leather sleeveless jacket like that, and that was pretty much what my character looked like coming in first game. The other shot that you saw is him 2 years down the line. So I really enjoy kind of the idea, and I know I've mentioned it on the show before, this idea of when you first start playing your character, you want to have kind of a bit of an established area, but it's okay if you don't have everything perfect, because the evolution of the character's costume is one of the best ways of showing character development in a character. And, while you don't have the depth that a roleplay character would have, MMOs are a good example of this. You come in as a level 1 villager and you're just covered in sacks and rags. And by the end of the game, you've got shoulders that are clipping through your head and you can't fit through doorways because you look so awesome. I really like that evolution. And yeah, we can switch back to the other shot. But every area that square footage by the end of it, I have very little space left on that jacket for anything. And the character kind of started off as a rockabilly, so a lot of his gear that I've kind of added slowly. You can kind of see bottle caps. You might even be able to see a keychain Coke bottle. And there's a few other kind of little artifacts of Americana. So I tried to kind of get that styling across with that. But there's a lot of other small little pieces on his gear. Unfortunately, it's not visible in this one, but underneath one of the lapels is a whole bunch of shotgun shells and bullet shells that have had the backs cut off. And it's just that little back piece that's riveted onto his armor. And every time he rivets one of those onto his armor, it's a member of his friends or family dying. And because he's been around for a while, and Dystopia Rising can be sometimes a little deadly to characters, and characters have multiple lives, of course. He's got those trophies, or what's the right word for it? Some kind of memorandum, or a mortis kind of thing, where he's honoring the dead by adding that extra gear to him. But yeah. Those are some of the more fun bits with him. On the back, I even armored up the back to be a biker, 1% jacket. So it's the main piece of artwork in the top, and then scroll work over the top and bottom. And all of those pieces I cut out from metal and painted up. So I kind of combined that he's heavily armored and also has that kind of biker and rockabilly kind of aesthetic going on.
All right,
So
going to Zeke.
I have a question for you guys. So, when we talked about like first impressions, and I think it's interesting, like we got to see the absolute first iteration of this costume. When you're first making a costume, like at the conceptual level of a character, and you're about to bring them in, what are the things that you're focusing on to tip off our peers?
I would say the two main things that I try to portray immediately in any kind of character, and I love that question. Thank you, Zeke. I think the two priorities that I try to cover the most is maybe my character's social class, and then if my character were a D&D character, like his character class. So is he a fighter or a cleric? Is he religious, or is he a mad scientist and experiments on things? And if that's the case, he's having like tools on his costume and stuff like that. So those are the two things that I try to start with, kind of thinking how they grew up, if they grew up wealthy or not. And then the other element of what they're trying, like what their vocation is.
Yeah.
Shay.
Yes, I had a question for Kai as well, but it's kind of being answered in what he's saying and what Ezekiel already asked. I was going to ask about the details and props that, like, you can kind of see that Axel has gotten added to him over the years, and you sort of answered this with a little bit of like the bullets. I was going to ask about like the did you have any like specific reasoning for like each of these props that you ended up adding over time? Do they have like a specific story to them, or was it just sort of like an overall general storytelling of like the entire aesthetic? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, I totally get that question. And if I were to answer it shortly, I would say yes. But I'm going to try and make it less verbose than going into everything.
A couple examples.
Character has a lot of... originally, I started grabbing a lot of Americana pieces and sticking them on. So he's got a lot of like brands of like car parts and things, like a Pennzoil logo and a Texaco logo added onto his stuff, which are actually like metal fridge magnets. And I've just stitched them onto his gear like their armor. Along with like some diamond plate and things like that, just kind of riveted all over. And as the character started kind of in Dystopia Rising, it used to be that you would have to kind of represent how much armor you had on your character's body. So the more heavily armored, the more armor hit points I got in the game, the more metal I added onto the costume. But then it comes to like heirlooms of characters and stuff. My character had like a girlfriend that he really cared about at one point in time, and he won't admit it. He doesn't talk about his feelings really, but he has a bunch of these like rose studs and like little rose pieces all over the costume, kind of hidden around, and that's kind of his memento to her. Some of the other things, I've had people just directly give me interesting, weird little bits of junk as gifts. And usually those end up getting sewn onto my costume, because in the post-apocalyptic, if you're not trying to be something similar to one of those weird, like, trash crabs that stick junk on their bodies, then, you know, what are you doing in the apocalypse, really? Truly,
yes.
And even the checkers on his gear, like the character is obviously like a motorhead. He's a speed freak. So there's a lot of like racing influence there. But he's from like a street gang in the game. And that street gang, their like gang colors are checkers, like racing flags. And so, you know, I didn't start putting those onto my costume until they actually meant something to my character.
I'd like to go ahead and move on to Sin, who's been a little quiet at the moment, but it's because he's been taking care of Sherry. You have some pictures from, I believe, your show, right?
Yeah. So I decided to show you guys some pictures from LA by Night because I thought from the different seasons, we have 4 seasons of the show that started to tell a story with how she's dressed. So for people who aren't familiar with Nellie G, she is a fashionista. She owns her own fashion line. So of course I had to come with like the epic like fashion. So the first one, if Joe would be so kind, is actually a screenshot from, yeah, there we go, me doing one of my epilogues. So it's Nellie like in her first time like ever questioning things, and so there's like a lot of details, but it's always interesting to dress differently from LARP or cosplay where it's full like head to toe, and live stream you're dressing from like from here up. So how do you convey those like really cool details literally from chest up? So I chose to do it with jewelry and like high like shoulders and stuff like that. So if you see in here, there's some really significant pieces that I'm wearing on there. So there's the blood necklace that actually starts to become more part of the story of her ghost story. The glove, the fingerless gloves. She's an assassin, so she can't have like satin gloves on her fingers, otherwise like swords will fall and like that won't be great. But if you guys see the jewelry on the finger, it's actually a stiletto like guard or something like that. I actually use that in some of the fights where I'm clawing at people and just like kind of doing a Drusilla style like kill on people. So it's always fun to have that claw, especially when I'm trying to talk and going back into physical role play, kind of using the claw and like making statements with it. So that was my
Cynthia,
first look. Yeah, go ahead.
is the character like what kind of background has she got? Is she wealthy? Is she like kind of fashionable? Like what is the vibe with her?
So yeah, she owns her own fashion line, so she's super fashionista, very wealthy. Not as wealthy as Victor Temple, who's a Ventru, but
Yeah.
she's right under there. Later in the season, which I'll talk about in a few, her wealth scale goes up, and you'll actually kind of see that in the outfits. I
Nice.
do want to point out that first season, I think I wore black in almost every single episode. She is an assassin, like I said earlier, so she's always trying to like blend in but still stylish because toreadors are always like artistic and stuff. If you go to the next picture, should be me in LA. Yeah, that one. So that's season 2. What I wanted to point out with the pants is a lot of people talk about Nellie G like being in a dress, and as much as I love dresses, in fact I'm in one right now, the character does not wear dresses. She's worn a dress one time, and the reason why I emphasize this is she has a power called spider crawl, or we call it spider crawl, but basically she can like exorcist it and like crawl up like any side of the wall, like cling to the insect is the power. You don't want someone in a dress doing cling of the insect going up a wall. So I was just made it a point that she was always wearing pants. And in earlier seasons, I used to wear Converse, so we used to joke that I would like rock Converse as a toreador. But I didn't do that in these pictures. I wore stilettos because that's how Jason had actually talked about Nellie and like her high heels clicking back and forth. But so still the assassin feel, but I'm adding colors in there. But that's the reason why I wanted to show that picture, was because it actually emphasized the fact that I'm wearing pants.
Also, your body language in this picture is super cool.
Oh, thank
trying to convey cobbling together. I came in the previous iteration of Dystopia Rising's rulebook as a scavenger. So I really wanted to evoke, like, these are clothes that Pagu has scavenged. Like, these are just scraps that they have sewn together
before scratching both a lot for me